Hello, beautiful family. How are you all doing? Thank you for the love and the support. So, my beautiful people, the video you are going to watch is going to shock you because things are moving higher. The Biafra Prime Minister now does change her. Another phrase of this struggle, that is what you are going to listen to right now. People say they are not seeing what he's doing, but believe me, if you know, you know. Connections not be water. See, the Biafra Prime Minister is moving to a different dimension whereby presidents also from other countries are not having one-on-one rapport with him. I don't really want to talk too much. I want you to listen. I know that some people will say, I beg you, now which kind of people they then fake Oyibo, but all the same, what gonna be will be. It is what it is. So before you go use your mouth take condemn people where they here, let me just tell you, it is not easy. If e easy, make you try and make people also follow you. So I want to listen to the strategies that these intelligent people have put together to work together to achieve one common goal. Now listen, and I'll be right back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for all this brief, Prime Minister Simon. And the next question will be Mr. President, Mr. G. Eritrea is an independent nation. So what is your government in exile struggle all about? And if you are not fighting for independence like the Biafran people, what is missing from the Eritrean people? Mr. President, you are on mute?
Yes, I
Yes,
am.
good.
I say before I proceed with the question, I want to commend the Prime Minister for well articulated and also detailed. I think this is more history we heard than ever. A lot of people may not be familiar with the Biafran issue. They might think it's a dead issue, but as you can see, it is well alive and moving. We also have a good friend in them. There's a lot of familiarities that we carry in common, and I think we are together in this fight. Coming back to your question, Mr. KHA, as you might know, yes, Eritrea is independent since 1991. And unfortunately, Eritrea has had high aspirations to govern itself as an inclusive, peaceful, and democratic administration is what we expected. In that particular 1991, not only Eritrea, Ukraine became independent the same year. They decided to go the democratic way. Unfortunately, we went to a dictatorship. And this authoritarian regime we have today, it hijacked the dreams and aspirations. And the Eritrean people have found themselves in a nation without law. We don't have constitution or even any necessary institution. At this juncture, for the last 33 years, no election, no constitution. Where in the world do we hear, where in the world that, we earned our independence through a long bloody struggle. And we paid dearly, many sacrifices. But all this, Eritrean people, dignity, the freedom, it has been betrayed. The struggle hijacked by the oppressive regime only to serve the interest of the few. The economy depleted, and the people's social fabric fragmented. So in order to change this is why from that independence, we have people that are not free inside Eritrea. People that live in fear. People that are jailed without any good reason. In this juncture, in our history, we have had over 100 factories in our nation, so long before any African nations, but he kind of closed them all. So people cannot function, people cannot work. The single university we had, it has been shut down. We have some colleges who don't have universities. But what we have is 260 underground jails, prisons. People are fearful. They're all running away from home. Our youth, which they are conscripted in the nation for lifetime. This is what some European nations categorize as slavery. This minority level. They work for nothing. They could not go to school, could not work, could not make family. Everybody, as any juncture, I think they are heading to exodus. This is what created in our life before. Eritreans are a very strong people. They love their nation. They love their people. They love their culture. However, At this right moment, every child we're used to be saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yes, he will say, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a mathematician. But today, I'm dismayed to hear any young kid, if has been asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? He will simply and clearly will tell you, he wants to run away. He wants to run away. So we cannot have this sort of nation building together. And I think we are in a really failed nation as it is. The nation is going the wrong way. The gentleman goes towards the Russians, Chinese at this moment. And we are, as a transitional government in exile, yes, we are pro-West. Yes, we are pro-democracy. Yes, we are pro-justice and for the rule of law. So all of our efforts, even though we have independence, we never had the freedom for the people. Therefore, this is our fight for our people. And we tend to get it to the highest level. And I think in this juncture, it is about time. The time is due for this despotic government. Maybe it's time to leave the nation. Whatever happened did happen. We don't want it to get any worse than it is. So we can restore democracy. We can restore justice. We can let out all those prisoners, political prisoners, journalists, and many women and men that are in jail for nothing. There is a fear, even if relatives, loved ones are in jail. It became a time you cannot ask about them. If you go to ask, yes, you better be thinking twice. And so the people are living in the dark. No wonder they called us the North Korea of Africa. Plus, even worse, you know what North Korea does, but ours, we were given the name the North Korea of Africa, and that would explain a lot. So without saying much, yes, we are not fighting for independence, but yes, we are fighting for our freedom, a freedom at home. And this is what we are fighting as a transitional Eritrean government in exile. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Mr. Ghebre, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I've been on mute. Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Gie. Mr. Elias, in a short period of the modern strategies involvement with these two governments in exile, you believe have been achieved?
We've achieved enormous success for both the Biafran government and the Eritrean transitional government within just a 2-month period. In the case of Biafra, to be honest with you, when we initially established the relationship with the Prime Minister, there had been, I would say, a minimal or negligible knowledge of Biafra in the United States. Even officials who dealt with Nigeria were really not aware of the Biafran issue. And we've arranged for the Prime Minister, as well as other members of the government, to meet directly with congressional officials, members of Congress, senior advisors, senior staffers, people outside of the government who are very influential, the think tanks. And within a short period of time, Washington, D.C. has gone from not talking about Biafra to now, as I mentioned previously, being written about in one of the most prestigious think tanks in Washington, D.C., the American Enterprise Institute. So I think it's been an enormous success, and this is just the beginning. And what we've really been focused on is developing the awareness, because once you get the awareness, then you get the support. And this is very important for your viewers who are both the Eritrean viewers, our Biafran friends, to understand, is diplomacy is a two-way street, right? One of the things that I've noticed in some of my conversations with our diaspora supporters is that some of them have the assumption that the U.S. government should somehow be able to read the minds of Biafra, read the minds of the Eritrean opposition, to that without educating them, somehow they'll know what to do. And if the U.S. government doesn't help, it means that somehow they're to blame. That's completely absurd. Diplomacy is a two-way street. If whether it's the Eritrean justice movement, the Biafran justice movement, if you want the U.S. to do something or the international community to do something, you have to educate them, give them the facts, give them the figures. That's what the lobbyist does. Tell them what it is you want from them, and then most likely they'll do it. Rather than not educating them, somehow expecting that they know what you want, and then blaming them when something doesn't happen. I mean, that's completely illogical. So that's why lobbying is important. And in addition to our lobbying, programs such as these are so critical because we are educating the population as to why lobbying is important, why educating is important, why diplomacy is important, and how that interplays. Now, so we've basically gotten Biafra on the map within a short period of time, and we're going to have a huge explosion these next few months in terms of our activities. This is just the beginning. We have a lot of things in the pipeline, and so Nigerian government needs to be more nervous in the coming months. Now, when it comes to the issue of Eritrea, there was a little bit more awareness than the Biafra issue. Not a lot more, but a little bit more. But here is the problem, and I'm going to be very frank. And again, I'm going to go into how we've been so successful in terms of the transitional government. The main issue that the U.S. government has had, or opponents of Isaias Afwerki have had in the U.S. government, is there was always the expectation that the Eritrean opposition, quote unquote, would at some point reach out to the U.S. government and work with them in order to remove Isaias Afwerki. And over time, the U.S. government became very surprised, and we've had private conversations. I've had many conversations. They just became surprised after 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in terms of why is the Eritrean opposition not meeting with us? Why are they not reaching out to us? Why are they not coming to us to work out a strategic plan on how to get rid of Isaias Afwerki? Why are they seemingly talking endlessly amongst themselves, talk, and more talk, and no action? So over time, people in the U.S. government became more and more disgruntled with the Eritrean opposition to the point where it seemed like, okay, these people are never going to get their act together. Now, that's why I think there's an openness within our government, frankly, to look at some other alternative in terms of saying, well, if the Eritrean opposition is incapable of organizing themselves, maybe we can play a role in helping organize them if they can't get their act together. And, President Bahdurai emerged on the scene. He created the government in exile. It was a perfect match. I connected with President Bahdurai. We developed a close relationship, a close friendship, and we decided to put all of our force here in Washington behind President Bahdurai, to support him as now the transitional president of Eritrea, to have a rival government to the dictatorship led by Isaias Afwerki. And it's been an enormous success. Now, I understand that this has created a little bit of controversy. Of course, the Isaias Afwerki is freaking out. He's having his government put out press releases attacking us, attacking President Bahdurai, because they're scared. They've never seen an opposition leader being so effective. Isaias Afwerki has just been used to opposition leaders defeating themselves, so he never had to worry. Now he sees someone who's effective and has the support of the U.S. government, and they're completely losing it. But you also have some people, some of our dear friends in the opposition who are frankly a little bit jealous of President Bahdurai, a little bit complaining as to why is he the leader, why are we not the leaders, and why are we, not having an input in electing the government in exile? We should be involved in choosing the president in exile, and this and that. And my response to that, to those people would be, you have 30 years to get your act together. The U.S. government was waiting for you to come to them, to work with them, to get rid of Isaias Afwerki. You failed to do that. So if you have anyone to blame, you should blame yourselves for not having your act together. If the Eritrean opposition got its act together earlier, I don't think there will be a need for the government in exile, or there will be a need for the U.S. government to be invested in the government in exile. This has been done because the Eritrean opposition has failed the past 30 years. I'm just being very honest about it, and I think people in the opposition need to hear this tough medicine. Enough with the nice talk. They need to hear the truth that they failed, and that's why people in Washington, like myself, that's why people in the U.S. government are getting behind President Bahdurai. If they're upset about that, they need to get their act together. And we could look at, what we could do with them once they get themselves together. So I just want to put that out there in a very open and honest way. With President Bahdurai, we've seen the success. It's public. We're not hiding anything. We saw the meeting with Congressman Sherman, which he tweeted about. We saw the meeting with Ambassador Eritrean-Gie, former Assistant Secretary for African Affairs under Trump, and former U.S. Ambassador to Ethiopia. He tweeted about it. And this is just a little bit. We've had many other meetings. Congresswoman Betty McCollum, other members of Congress. We've had a lot of momentum, and this is just the beginning. You're going to see more and more support coming from the U.S. government. I think eventually what's going to happen, especially as the Horn of Africa becomes more unstable, is we already have many people in the government who view President Bahdurai as the legitimate president, not Isaias Afwerki. I think once the Horn of Africa moves towards a conflagration, and we see what's happening with Somalia, Somaliland, Ethiopia, the Horn of Africa is a powder keg waiting to explode. But I think, once we get to that point, we're going to push for a more formal recognition by the U.S. government of President Bahadurai's government. I think the best analogy would be, in this case, after a period of time under the Trump administration, the U.S. government recognized Juan Guaido as the legitimate leader of Venezuela over the Maduro government. So similarly, I think we're going to move in that direction where at some point the U.S. government's going to more formally proclaim that President Bahdurai is the legitimate leader of Eritrea and not Isaias Afwerki. And again, if there are people in the Eritrean opposition who are upset about this, they should blame themselves because the U.S. government has been chomping at the bit, eager to work with them, and they've never showed up to Washington, D.C. So again, I would say to members of the opposition, either get in line, get it behind President Bahdurai because the train is leaving the station. So either support us or stay on the sidelines. What they should not do is try to be bitter about this and make complaints about, why they're not, leading this and why President Bahdurai is leading this. They should not be doing that. Either they should be supporting us, and a lot of groups are consolidating around President Bahdurai, or they should be on the sidelines, but they should not be complaining. So, that's the context where we put Biafra on the map, enormous success. December 2nd is going to be the redeclaration of the Biafran state. We're going to get, all the support here in Washington for that. Nigeria is going to be toast, if not formally, but then at least de facto. And similarly with the Eritrean transitional government, we're moving towards a more formal recognition of President Bahdurai as the legitimate leader of Eritrea and over Isaias Afwerki. And then, when that happens, we'll decide, what to do from there. So, I just want to give you the overview, and I want to speak very frankly because I think the time now is to have frank discussions, not to, play around the edges. And so I just want to put everything on the table for you, and I hope this was helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for all of that. My next question is going to be, I'm sorry, I have to go back to this screen. Okay. Are there any peaceful solutions on the horizon or political dialogue for independence, or do you believe it can only be solved by armed conflicts? If armed struggle is the solution, what sort of preparations are on the way? This, Mr.
I think he's asking Prime Minister Simon.
Yes, Prime Minister.
All right, thank you very much for that question. What we're doing now is that, of course, we are open for, peaceful dialogue and all that. As a matter of fact, we are the peaceful one. The Nigerian state is the violent one.
Thank you, Prime Minister, Mr. Simon. And this historical and joint interview. This historical and joint interview with the Eritrean government in exile is a milestone in our fight for freedom for the two movements: freedom for Biafra from Nigeria, and also for the government of Eritrea in exile and government of Eritrea in exile and of Eritrea inside the dictatorial regime in Eritrea. Can you tell us what do you have in common, both these sisterly governments in exile and the struggle for independence and the struggle for free Eritrean people from the tyrant administration in Asmara?
Thank you, Mr. KHA. And again, thank you, Prime Minister Simon. And I would like also to commend Mr. Elias being straightforward in this 21st century.
Right.
We don't have anything to hide. When you're fighting for freedom, there is nothing to hide.
Yes, everything on the table, Mr. President.
Pardon me?
Everything on the table.
Yes, it should be on the table. Only a tyrant will have something to hide, but we have to be upfront because we're fighting for freedom. So we shouldn't have anything to be worried about by telling it like it is. On that previous question you gave to the Prime Minister Simon, if there is a peaceful political dialogue, but with this dictatorship and the tyrants, the oppressors, they don't have any vocabulary that says peace. In our case, it looked like it's too late. It became to the point of no return. I don't think they would listen to that aspect. If there is a way, even today, after all this damage that has happened in my nation, Eritrea, if there is anything to be dialogue, if there is a peaceful way to exit, in order to reach or achieve our freedom, we want to do it with the minimum damage. We don't want any further bloodshed. We don't want to create a humongous military in order to battle the existing military. For God's sake, those military that are inside Eritrea is the people's military. They are not a private military. They belong to the nation. If I would remind each and every one of you, as you graduated from Sawa, you have a pledge you gave. And that says, yes, as a military, I will protect my nation and want my people from external and internal enemies. Repeat it, from external and internal enemies. So, I still want to remind you, the biggest enemy is the internal one that is looming and causing all this harm among each of us. As we know, he lives in our differences. So we have to minimize our differences in order to know and identify and target the enemy. Coming back to your question though, what do we have in common? Well, injustice in one place is injustice everywhere. If we are claiming we've been unjustly treated, the same goes to the Biafran people. By the same token, something that we have in common also, the Biafrans are also indigenous people. So do we have 4 different indigenous people in Eritrea? That has been recognized through the United Nations. I think they deserve their freedom, their human right intact. I think they should be treated even well known throughout the world. But because of that indigenous movement of us, I think we have a big thing in common. Again, even coming as a prowess for democracy, both governments are working to restore democracy. And I think this is the biggest binding point we have in order to work together. The minute we met through the Office of Moral Strategies, we decided, yes, in order to elevate each other, yes, we can work together. Yes, our causes are just. Yes, our causes are righteous for our people. Therefore, yes, there is a lot in common for us to work. And I think it is not about if, but when. Yes, we will prevail, and our people, both sides, should be free. With that, I will yield my platform to you, Mr. KJ.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Bahdurai, Mr. G. Uh, Mr. Elias, can you give us looking forward and in the future what we can be achieved or expected from the modern strategies incorporation for these two governments in exile?
Yeah, so let me expand a little bit about in terms of what I said previously, which is connected to your question. First of all, I think with our firm, we now have not just a relationship, but a burgeoning alliance between the Eritrean government in exile, between the Biafran government in exile. This will become a very important partnership because both have assets to bring to the table that are mutually complementary. Biafra is a huge country with up to 80 million people if you include the diaspora. It has a strong military Biafran Liberation Army that the Prime Minister leads. So it has certain assets. Eritrea is a very small country, but it has the advantage of being a country that's already recognized as a member by the international community, as a country recognized by the international community. So I think these are two causes that have a similarity in terms of you have people that have been subject to oppression in different circumstances, but who are beleaguered, subject to persecution and prosecution and killing. And so I think there's a commonality there. I think these are brotherly causes. And I think each of these causes and each of these governments are able to provide something to the other, which will elevate each other. And you're going to see a lot more in terms of we already have specific plans in the works, and you will see those plans come into fruition in the next coming months in terms of how these two governments will, in a more formal way, develop their strategic alliance. As I alluded to before, we plan to keep raising awareness of the Biafra issue in Washington. Again, most people were not aware of it. We're now making people aware of it. Biafra has been taken now into the center stage of Washington, being published by major think tanks. There's some major congressional initiatives that we're planning these next few months that I don't want to get to publicly right now, but if they happen, will be very significant. And we're also working with our colleagues in Congress and elsewhere to create additional support for this upcoming convention in Finland. And I'll let the Prime Minister speak more to this. There's a Finland convention between November 29th to December 3rd, where you're going to have the signing of the redeclaration of independence, the restoration of the Biafran state, the signing of constitutional documents, strategic alliances, and so forth. So we're going to kind of, get the political support in Washington for that convention. So that's what we have planned. I'm very confident that with our continued effort, we will move our government towards supporting either recognizing Biafra as an independent state or having the U.S. government endorse the position that the Biafrans should be, allowed to have their independence through referendum, which the Prime Minister is already doing. And the Prime Minister, I'm sure, could talk more about that in terms of he's already organized a referendum where 50 million Biafrans have voted for independence. So, perhaps having the U.S. government recognize that referendum formally. And, the U.S. government being the major player, once the U.S. government's on board, other governments will follow, the United Nations will follow, and so forth. And as I've said, we continue to raise the awareness about the Eritrean transitional government in exile and continue to call out the dictator over there. And there's a lot that we're discussing. We've had conversations about potential legislation, potential resolutions, potential even speeches or what have you. So you're going to see a lot more coming. If the Eritrean government is freaking out over some of these meetings that we've had, they haven't seen anything yet. This is just stage one. People are not going to believe it when we get to stage 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm hoping that as we do this, we already have a consolidation because of our success of the smaller groups into the government in exile. The prime minister, the president, recently was in Addis, Ethiopia, had a major conference where, for the very first time, rather than just infighting, the smaller groups decided to coalesce and come under the umbrella of the government in exile. We're hoping to continue this as we get more success, as we continue to engage with the U.S. government. We're hoping more and more of these smaller Eritrean opposition groups consolidate under the government in exile. And I'm particularly hoping that the youth who are so active, the Blue Revolution leaders, the Brigadam Hamadou, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, that those guys come under the tent of the government in exile, and where we could, and we're happy to do this, provide them with mentorship, political training. Our lobbying firm with the president will train them, and we want to get them from fighting with people in these festivals, move that from that to fighting the political fight, fighting in Congress, fighting in the State Department. We would love to bring these young people who are getting into fights at these festivals, training them, educating them, and then bring them to Congress, a group of them, maybe 10 of these Brigadier Hamadou individuals, President Bahdurai and I and my Congressman Moran, we bring them to Washington, show them around. They need to get to this next stage, because if all they're doing is talk, again, the young people, I want to speak to the young people now. The young Eritreans have to learn from the mistakes of their predecessors. They cannot do the same thing, which is talk endlessly amongst ourselves and not do anything. Because if all they're doing is talking amongst themselves and not doing anything, then they're going to be another failure, right? And we don't want that. We want them to be successful. We're here to extend a hand to make sure they're successful, to provide them with the guidance that they need. So I am very optimistic. I think we're going to get Biafran independence, the U.S. to support that. Again, it's going to take time and effort. And the same thing with the Eritrean transitional government, because again, we have 535 members of Congress. We have the White House, we have the State Department, we have National Security Council. You have people outside the government in the think tank community that have a tremendous amount of influence. So there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people that need to be educated, that need to be engaged in order to influence U.S. policy. So in the cases of both the Biafran cause and the Eritrean cause, these are going to be long-term projects. This is not just going to be us lobbying for a month or two. This is something we're committed to doing for many years in order to develop the powerhouse in Washington. In a short period of time, we've already gotten tremendous support, more than I even anticipated. And again, I'm very confident that we're going to get an independent Biafra, and the U.S. is going to get behind that. I'm confident we're going to get rid of the dictator, Isaias Afwerki, and the U.S. is going to get behind, or is already behind, but more formally proclaim their support for the transitional presidency of Mr. Bahdurai. So we're in the right direction. We're going to be successful in both cases. I think the only question is timeline, right? How fast are these things going to happen? And when it comes to that, there's some externalities that are outside of our control, right? We have an election coming up. We don't know what regional events might happen, but we're controlling the things that are under our control, and we're moving in the right direction. I'm very confident in both the Biafran cause and the Eritrean cause. We're going to be successful. I'm very confident in that.
Thank you.
So my beautiful family, that brings us to the end of this update. Do well to like the video, share and subscribe. I still remain your one and only Progress the Analyst. I bring all the update to you back to back. As you can see, everybody here, they are in need of the freedom the same way you need it. So share this video and let it go viral. We are thinking that the Biafra Prime Minister is taking a bold step, and indeed is also already in a new dimension. Thank you so much, and bye bye.